What's up guys, David with Miracle Canine Training. We are out here with Killian. Killian is a ginormous Rottweiler that is here for a behavioral modification board and train. This is a dog that isn't necessarily aggressive, but is for sure a dog that is very headstrong, very in his ways, and pretty much does whatever he wants to do. And due to his size, this is starting to become a serious problem. He's having a very difficult time walking. He can't maintain any focus. He's getting extremely reactive to other dogs, sometimes other people, and it's just overall becoming a pretty big problem. So what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna be showing you the process of taking him start to finish through a perfect walk. We have not done any training with him so far. This is a first session. We will show some before footage of him here from the first walk we did with just slip collar here, just showing what he did. Jeez. Oh, Jesus. I'm gonna have you guys, if you don't mind, move that way a little bit, just so I can bring this guy inside. Oh. Come on. Oh. Come on. He's extremely difficult to handle. So, we will be showing you guys steps 1, 2, and 3 on our way of essentially perfecting the walk here. So step 1 is going to be introducing the prong collar and beginning to shape some of the general positioning that we're going to ultimately want out of him. So we have him fitted up with a 3mm Herm Springer prong collar. There are only 2 prong collars that I use, the 3mm or the 2.25mm. And basically the way I determine which size I put on the dog is based on if the dog is under 50 pounds, I'll use 2.25. If the dog is over 50 pounds, I'll use 3mm. I don't use any bigger sizes or anything like that. I will just add links into it until I get to the right fit. We found that these sizes are the most efficient with it. Now, the biggest thing when going into the prong collar training with the dogs is that we're not looking for this to perfect the walk. I am not looking for him to, heel perfectly with me on a loose leash or anything like that. I am only looking to shape the general heel position, right? So I'm gonna put him on that. I'm gonna make sure he understands how to move with it, and then I'm just gonna take him for a walk, starting to show him where I want him to be, start using that prong to try to block some of the sniffing and the stopping and things like that. From there, we'll do all of the finishing with the e-collar, which will document that process as well. The reason why we use the prong first as opposed to jumping right in with the e-collar work is just because we want to make sure that he understands the motion of it and we could shape it so that when we add the e-collar in, so reacting to cars here, again, just a very difficult dog to control here. Jesus. Gotta have that two-handed grip here. So, what was I saying? So the reason why we don't jump right into the e-collar typically with the dogs is to make sure we could shape some of that positioning first, so when we go to add the e-collar in, there's a lot less conflict involved in the process because they already have a general idea of moving with pressure and staying in a stationary position. So don't look for this video or when you're working on this process to be perfect by any means, right? Just look for a general shaping of it. So again, just hyper fixated over there on people. Just, again, just overall kind of a butt head of a dog here. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this leash. I'm going to attach it to the prong collar. Make sure when you're doing this, you have your prong collar situated nice and high on the neck. So we want this thing to be just about as high as we can get it, right behind the ears there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get started here. Okay, so with any dog that's never been on a prong before, what I'm gonna do first and foremost is I'm going to start just doing some 180s in a small area and making sure he's understanding when he feels this pressure to start coming towards me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn, apply pressure, relieve pressure when he comes towards me, turn, apply pressure, relieve pressure when he comes towards me, and just repeat that a few times and make sure there's not gonna be any sort of conflict when he feels that leash. Now with some dogs, you'll see that they respond very differently to the prong. We'll see some dogs are very resistant to it initially. He's not very sensitive to it. You can tell he still wants to kind of dig in when he feels that pressure. And then we'll also see some dogs that are hypersensitive to it, and you need to kind of really ease them through that process a little bit more, use a little bit less pressure and make sure they understand it and aren't kind of spazzing out as much from it through the process. In his case, since he's not super sensitive to it, we're gonna jump right into the walk. And you'll notice I'm holding this leash short with my arms relaxed at my sides here. And I'm just using little bits of pressure like that to communicate where I want him to be. Important part of this process is stay loose, keep your arms loose, and you're essentially gonna be holding your leash where when your arm is loose at your side, the leash itself is straight, but the snap has slack in it. So in this case, you can see right there when my arm is loose because he's so tall, very short, but there's slack in that right there, that snap. So that's a good position where you could very easily give that information without needing to jerk your arm around all over the place. So again, just shaping that heel position, just giving little pops back. Think natural swing of your arm backwards when you're doing this and starting to shape some of that heel position. And like I said, my goal here is not perfection with the walk just yet, even though he's doing pretty good here. My goal is just stopping some of the stopping to pee on everything that he sees and sniffing and getting ahead of me and stuff like that. I'm just shaping this position. Again, lots of information with that leash, communicating where I specifically want him to be. Notice when he stops to pee, I keep moving and I give a pop in the direction of wherever I'm trying to go. This is an important part of starting to dictate those things you're used to doing and all of those little bits of positioning and getting ahead and stuff like that. You're not allowed to do anymore. You need to start paying attention to the person at the end of the leash here. Now again, this looks good here, but the big thing to note is that I am using this leash right now to micromanage constantly where I want him to be. If I were to just go loose on this, he's gonna eventually at some point start getting ahead. He's gonna start sniffing around, doing other things. Notice even right away there, he's starting to do that. So we wanna make sure we're using this leash very regularly just to shape that heel position. And then when we go to add in the e-collar next into it, it will help clean some of those things up. So turn, again, just moving. Another big part about this is no hesitation. See how he's still trying to kind of stop and put the brakes on and stuff? He's got to realize that we're going to keep moving here in these situations. He can't freeze up and do what he wants to do and, you know, dictate and control that walk right now. And that's why we're getting much less resistance out of him, is just from those little things that we're able to now give some communication on. As he's doing well, you could purposely try to walk closely past things that may be distracting. And when he stops to try to sniff those, again, give your pop in a direction away from those. So in his case, bushes, telephone poles, stuff like that. All things he's very inclined to try to stop and do essentially whatever he wants when he sees them. Does a lot of marking and stuff. Marking, we find that with dogs, builds their confidence, builds their concept that they're controlling things more. So dogs that are doing it very frequently tend to show more dominant personality traits like that. We find that working with dogs like this, really comes down to two things. One, a battle of wills and the dog understanding that you ultimately are going to be a little bit more headstrong than they are, and you're going to help be a little bit more persistent in showing them they can't do these things. And then from there, utilizing your communication to provide then consequences and further show that leadership to get them out of that state of mind. And that's what we're beginning to do here, is establish that communication and outwill him on, sorry, but we're not going to let you stop and do this. We're not going to let you do this. And then as we go to add the e-collar into the process, you're going to see that get smoother and smoother.